The human mind is a fascinating and mysterious thing. One of the most powerful examples of this mystery is something called the placebo effect. The placebo effect happens when a person feels better or shows real improvement in their health even though they have not been given any real medicine. Instead, they may have received a sugar pill, a saline injection, or another harmless treatment that has no active drug. Yet, somehow, their body reacts as if they were given real medicine. Doctors and scientists have studied the placebo effect for hundreds of years, and even today it continues to surprise them. The idea is simple but very powerful. When people believe they are being treated, their mind can trigger changes in their body that feel real. In other words, belief itself can sometimes work like medicine. The word placebo comes from Latin, meaning "I shall please." In the past, doctors sometimes gave patients harmless remedies when no real cure was available. They noticed that many patients still felt relief, even though the treatment had no real healing power. This strange result opened the door to research that still continues today. One of the key parts of the placebo effect is expectation. When someone expects a pill or treatment to work, the brain starts to prepare the body for healing. The brain can release natural chemicals like endorphins, which reduce pain, or dopamine, which makes us feel happier. These real biological changes prove that the placebo effect is not fake. It is the mind and body working together in a surprising way. For example, in some studies, people with strong headaches were given sugar pills instead of real painkillers. Even though the pill had no medicine inside, many of the patients reported that their pain went away. In some cases, brain scans showed that their pain centers had become less active. This shows us that the placebo effect is not just in someone's imagination. It can cause real, measurable changes in the brain and body. The placebo effect is also linked to the environment and the way treatment is given. If a doctor speaks with confidence, wears a white coat, and gives the patient a pill in a professional-looking package, the patient's trust increases. This trust makes the placebo effect stronger. The body responds more when the mind is convinced that a real treatment is happening. But it is not just pills. Placebos can also be injections, fake surgeries, or even medical machines that are not really turned on. In all these cases, belief and expectation play the biggest role. For example, in some studies of knee surgery, patients were divided into two groups. One group received real surgery, while the other group only had a small cut made, but no real operation was done. Surprisingly, both groups reported improvement and reduced pain after the procedure. This shows how powerful belief can be in healing. However, the placebo effect is not always about positive results. There is also something called the nocebo effect. This happens when people expect negative side effects from a treatment if the treatment is harmless. For example, if patients are warned that a pill might cause nausea, many of them will actually feel sick, even if the pill was just sugar. This shows that the mind does not only create positive changes, but it can also create negative ones. The placebo effect raises deep questions about the connection between the mind and body. It shows that healing is not always about chemicals or surgeries. Sometimes the belief in healing is powerful enough to make a difference. Scientists are now studying how to use this effect in real medicine. If doctors can learn how to harness the power of belief and expectation, treatments could become more effective, even with smaller amounts of drugs. Of course, the placebo effect also has limits. It cannot cure serious diseases like cancer, infections, or broken bones. It works best for symptoms like pain, stress, anxiety, depression, or fatigue conditions that are strongly linked to the brain's activity. Still, even with its limits, the placebo effect reminds us of how amazing the human mind can be. In the next parts, we will explore how the placebo effect has been discovered, studied, and used in history. We will also learn about real-life experiments that prove how powerful it can be. But first, it is important to understand that this effect is not magic, it is science, psychology, and biology working together in surprising ways. The placebo effect may sound like a modern discovery, but its roots go back hundreds, even thousands of years. For most of human history, medicine was not based on scientific experiments. Instead, it was a mix of traditions, beliefs, herbs, and rituals. Yet, despite the lack of real scientific cures, many people still reported feeling better after treatments. This is one of the earliest signs of the placebo effect at work. In ancient times, healers, shamans, and priests were often the main doctors. They used chants, prayers, strange objects, and rituals to treat sick people. While these treatments had no real medical power, they often gave comfort, hope, and belief to the patient. This strong belief sometimes led to real improvements in how the patient felt. The healing power was not in the herbs or chants, it was in the patient's mind and body responding to the expectation of recovery. For example, in ancient Egypt, doctors used spells and symbolic objects as part of healing. In Greece, temples dedicated to the god Asclepius were visited by sick people who believed they would be healed in their dreams. In these cases, belief and trust in the healer played a central role. Even without real medicine, people sometimes recovered or felt relief. In the Middle Ages, people often turned to religious relics, holy water, or blessings to cure illnesses. Again, many reported feeling better, not because of the objects themselves, but because they believed strongly in their power. These stories show how the placebo effect has always been part of human life. Long before anyone gave it a name, the term placebo itself first appeared in the 18th century. At that time, doctors began noticing that some of their treatments worked mainly because patients believed in them, not because of the treatment's actual power. In 1785, the word placebo was included in a medical dictionary, described as a medicine that pleased the patient more than it helped. This was the beginning of recognizing the placebo effect as something separate and special. During the 18th and 19th centuries, medicine was full of strange cures: bloodletting, leeches, powders, and tonics. Many of these had little or no effect, but patients often reported feeling better. Doctors realized that part of this improvement was due to the patient's expectations. Even if the treatment itself was useless, the ritual of visiting a doctor, receiving medicine, and being told they would improve created real changes in the patient's body. One of the most famous early examples of the placebo effect in science came from the work of a man named Benjamin Franklin in the late 1700s. At that time, a doctor named Franz Mesmer claimed he could heal people using animal magnetism, a kind of invisible energy. Many people believed him and said they felt better after his treatments. But when Franklin and other scientists tested Mesmer's methods, they discovered that the patients improved only when they believed something was happening, not because of any real energy. This was one of the first scientific studies of the placebo effect. In the 20th century, the placebo effect became more important as medicine turned more scientific. New drugs were being created, and doctors needed a way to prove that these drugs really worked. This led to the rise of clinical trials. In these trials, some patients received the real drug, while others received a placebo such as a sugar pill. Neither the patients nor the doctors knew who had the real treatment. If the group with the real drug did much better than the placebo group, the drug was considered effective. But if both groups improved equally, then the drug was not better than belief itself. These trials showed again and again how powerful the placebo effect could be. In some cases, placebos worked nearly as well as real drugs, especially for conditions like pain, anxiety, or depression. This forced scientists to pay serious attention to the power of the mind in healing. The history of the placebo effect also shows how medicine has changed over time. In the past, many doctors used placebos knowingly, giving patients harmless treatments simply to make them feel cared for. Today, medicine is much stricter about honesty, and doctors cannot simply give false treatments. But the lessons from history remain clear. Belief, expectation, and trust are powerful forces in health. The story of the placebo effect is not just about fake cures, it is about how human beings have always searched for hope, comfort, and healing. From ancient temples to modern hospitals, the mind's role in health has always been there, even if people did not understand it fully. As we move forward, we will see how scientists began to explore the biology behind the placebo effect. How can the mind actually change the body? What happens in the brain when someone believes they are being healed? These questions began to shape modern research, and they are the focus of the next part. For many years, doctors and scientists thought the placebo effect was only in the mind. They believed that if a patient said they felt better after taking a sugar pill or fake treatment, it was just imagination. But modern science has shown that the placebo effect is real and involves actual changes in the brain and body. When a person believes they are receiving real medicine, their brain reacts as if the treatment is real. This belief can release natural chemicals in the body that reduce pain, improve mood, and even change physical symptoms. In other words, the body has built-in systems for healing that can be activated by expectation and trust. One of the most powerful examples is pain relief. When people are given a placebo and told it is a strong painkiller, their brains release endorphins, which are natural pain-relieving chemicals. These endorphins attach to the same brain receptors that opioid drugs like morphine do. This means that belief alone can trigger the brain to reduce pain in a very real way. Scientists have even blocked this effect by giving patients a drug that stops endorphins from working. When that drug is used, the placebo no longer reduces pain. This proves that the brain is physically involved in the process. The placebo effect also affects conditions like depression and anxiety. When a patient expects to feel calmer or happier, the brain increases the activity of neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, which are linked to mood. In clinical trials for antidepressants, many patients who take placebo pills show real improvement. simply because they believe the medicine will work. Another fascinating discovery is how the placebo effect changes the brain's pathways. Using brain scans, scientists can see different areas of the brain light up when a person takes a placebo. These areas include the prefrontal cortex, which controls expectation, the limbic system, which handles emotions, and the brainstem, which controls pain and physical reactions. The brain does not just imagine improvement, it sends signals to the rest of the body to actually create it. The immune system can also respond to placebo. In some studies, patients given a placebo, along with a suggestion that it would boost their immunity, showed measurable changes in their immune response. This suggests that belief can even affect how the body fights disease. Another area where the placebo effect is strong is Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is caused by low levels of dopamine in the brain, which leads to tremors and stiffness. In some studies, when patients thought they were given real treatment, their brains released dopamine even though the pill was a placebo. This temporarily improved their movement. Such findings amazed scientists and proved that expectation can trigger chemical changes deep inside the brain. The placebo effect is not just about the pill itself. It also depends on the environment. The way a doctor speaks, the color and shape of the pill, the smell of the clinic, and even the trust between doctor and patient can all strengthen the effect. For example, a big red pill might feel stronger to a patient than a small white one, even if both are sugar pills. Similarly, a pill given by a confident, caring doctor often works better than the same pill given without warmth or explanation. Scientists also talk about the nocebo effect, which is the opposite of the placebo effect. If a patient believes that a harmless pill will cause side effects, they may actually feel those negative effects. For example, if told that a sugar pill may cause nausea, some patients will report feeling sick. This shows that belief can create both healing and harm. In summary, the placebo effect is not a trick or simple imagination. It is a biological process. The brain releases chemicals, changes pathways, and communicates with the body to create real improvements. Modern science has helped us understand that the mind and body are deeply connected, and belief itself can act as a form of medicine. As we move to the next part, we will explore the role of doctors and patient trust in strengthening the placebo effect, and why the relationship between healer and patient is often just as important as the medicine itself. The placebo effect is not just about a sugar pill or a fake treatment. It is also about the relationship between the patient and the doctor. In fact, many scientists believe that trust between a doctor and patient is one of the most powerful parts of the healing process. The words a doctor uses, the tone of their voice, their confidence, and even their kindness can change how the patient feels and how effective the treatment becomes. When a doctor gives medicine with confidence and says, "This treatment will help you," the patient is more likely to believe it will work. This belief activates the placebo effect and makes the treatment stronger. On the other hand, if a doctor looks uncertain or says, "I am not sure if this will help," the patient's belief may weaken, and the healing effect may not happen. Studies show that when patients trust their doctors, they recover faster, even when the treatment is not very strong. For example, in one study, 2 groups of patients were given the same placebo cream for pain relief. One group received the cream from a doctor who was warm, kind, and confident. The other group received the cream from a doctor who was cold and distant. The group with the kind doctor reported much greater pain relief. This proves that words, tone, and trust are not just soft skills, they actually change the body's response. The appearance of the doctor also matters. Patients often feel more confident when the doctor wears a white coat, speaks clearly, and shows professionalism. Small details, like eye contact, smiling, and listening carefully, can make patients feel cared for. This sense of care and respect can strengthen the placebo effect because the patient feels safe and supported. The environment of the clinic or hospital is also important. A clean, well-lit, and calm place makes patients feel they are in good hands. A messy, noisy, or unfriendly place may weaken their trust. Patients often heal better in positive environments because their brains release chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, which are linked to trust and comfort. Communication is another key factor. When doctors explain treatments in simple, clear words, patients understand better and feel more in control. This understanding increases belief in the treatment. In contrast, if doctors use complicated language or avoid answering questions, patients may feel confused or doubtful, which can reduce the placebo effect. In many cultures, rituals of healing also play a role. For example, a doctor writing a prescription, checking blood pressure, or giving an injection all feel like powerful actions to the patient. These rituals create expectation. Even if the medicine itself is not strong, the act of receiving care can trigger the brain's healing system. The power of suggestion is also important. If a doctor says, "This medicine has helped many people like you," the patient is more likely to feel better. But if the doctor warns too much about side effects, the patient may start to imagine problems and feel worse. This is the nocebo effect. Therefore, doctors must balance honesty with encouragement, giving hope without creating unnecessary fear. Trust is built not only on words but also on time and attention. When doctors take time to listen, ask questions, and show empathy, patients feel valued. This emotional connection can reduce stress and anxiety, which also helps the body heal faster. Stress is known to weaken the immune system, so reducing it through trust and care allows the body to recover more quickly. Modern research shows that a caring doctor-patient relationship can even reduce the need for strong drugs. For example, some patients with chronic pain need less pain medication if their doctor gives them regular support and encouragement. The brain's natural healing systems become stronger, reducing dependence on medicine. In summary, the role of the doctor is not just to give medicine, but also to create trust, safety, and belief. This relationship is a powerful part of the placebo effect. Healing is not only about chemicals in pills, it is also about human connection, kindness, and the power of hope. As we move to the next part, we will look at real examples from medical history where the placebo effect changed lives and how doctors discovered its surprising power. The history of medicine is full of fascinating stories about the placebo effect. Long before scientists understood how the brain and body worked, people experienced healing simply because they believed in the treatment. These stories help us see how powerful belief can be, even when the medicine itself is fake or inactive. One famous story comes from World War II. A doctor named Henry Beecher was working on the battlefield, treating wounded soldiers. He ran out of morphine, which was used to control pain. Desperate to help his patients, he injected them with plain salt water, but told them it was morphine. To his surprise, many soldiers reported pain relief and even relaxed enough to undergo surgery. This showed him that belief in treatment could reduce pain and change the body's response. After the war, Beecher became one of the first doctors to study the placebo effect seriously. Another story comes from the 18th century. A doctor named Franz Mesmer claimed that he could heal people with animal magnetism. He believed invisible magnetic fluids flowed through the body, and he used strange rituals to restore balance. Many patients felt better after his treatments. But later, it was discovered that there was no such thing as magnetic fluid. The real power came from suggestion, ritual, and belief. The patients expected to be healed, and their bodies responded. In the early 20th century, sham surgeries also revealed the placebo effect. In one case, patients with knee pain were divided into two groups. One group had real surgery, and the other group had fake surgery, where doctors only made small cuts but did nothing inside. Surprisingly, many patients in the fake surgery group improved just as much as those who had real surgery. Their belief in the operation triggered real healing in the brain and body. Another powerful example comes from the use of sugar pills. In the past, doctors often gave harmless pills to patients when they had no real treatment to offer. Many of these patients still got better. They felt cared for, trusted the doctor, and believed the pill would work. Even though it contained no medicine, the body responded as if it had. Placebos have also been used in treating depression and anxiety. In several studies, patients who took placebo pills reported improvements in mood and energy, sometimes almost as strong as patients who took real antidepressants. Scientists discovered that the brain releases natural chemicals like endorphins and serotonin when patients believe they are being treated. These chemicals improve mood and reduce pain, showing how deeply belief can affect the mind. There are also cultural examples. In traditional healing ceremonies, shamans or healers often use chants, herbs, and rituals to cure illness. Even when the herbs have no medical power, people often feel better afterward. The ceremony itself creates belief, comfort, and hope, which activates the placebo effect. One unusual story involves colored pills. Studies show that red pills are often seen as stronger for pain relief, while blue pills are seen as calming. Patients respond differently depending on the color and size of the pill, even if all pills are just sugar. This shows that our expectations and associations like red meaning strong or blue meaning calm can shape our body's reaction. These stories from history reveal that the placebo effect is not fake medicine. It is real healing triggered by belief, expectation, and trust. It proves that the human brain is a powerful pharmacy capable of producing chemicals that can reduce pain, calm fear, and even improve physical conditions. In the next part, we will explore how the placebo effect works in the brain and body and why scientists today take it so seriously. The placebo effect may look mysterious, but modern science has shown that it is deeply connected to how the brain and body communicate. When a person believes a treatment will help, the brain can release powerful natural chemicals that affect health. Understanding how this happens helps us see why the placebo effect is so strong. One of the key players in the placebo effect is the brain's expectation system. When a person takes a pill or receives a treatment, the brain does not just sit quietly, starts predicting what will happen next. If the person believes the treatment is real, the brain prepares for healing. This expectation alone can trigger physical changes. For example, if a patient expects pain relief, the brain releases chemicals that reduce pain. These chemicals are called endorphins. Endorphins are the body's natural painkillers. They act in the brain the same way morphine does, calming pain and creating a sense of well-being. Scientists discovered that patients who felt relief from a placebo had higher levels of endorphins in their brain. In fact, when doctors gave another drug that blocked endorphins, the placebo pain relief disappeared. This proved that the effect was real, not imaginary. The brain also releases other important chemicals, like dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is connected to motivation and reward. When people believe they are receiving a treatment, dopamine levels rise, making them feel more positive and energetic. Serotonin helps regulate mood, and placebo treatments often increase serotonin activity, which explains why some patients with depression feel better, even from sugar pills. Another brain area involved is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making and expectations. It sends signals to other parts of the brain that control pain, stress, and emotion. When the prefrontal cortex believes a treatment will work, it tells the body to adjust accordingly. The brain then communicates with the nervous system and even the immune system, creating real physical changes. Interestingly, brain scans have shown that when people receive a placebo, the same areas of the brain light up as when they receive real medicine. For example, if a patient takes a placebo for pain, the brain regions that process pain become less active, just as they would if the patient had taken an actual painkiller. This proves that belief alone can change how the brain works. The placebo effect also affects the stress response system. When people feel hopeful, their stress hormones, like cortisol, decrease. Lower stress allows the body to heal better and improves the immune system. In contrast, when people feel hopeless, stress hormones rise, which can make illness worse. This explains why belief and hope are so important in recovery. Another surprising discovery is the role of conditioning. If a person takes a real medicine many times, the brain learns to connect the ritual of taking a pill with healing. Later, even if the person takes a fake pill, the brain responds as if it were real medicine. This shows that the placebo effect is partly based on learning and memory. Scientists now understand that the placebo effect is not just all in the mind. It involves real brain chemistry, real signals to the body, and real physical changes. The brain is like a pharmacy that can release powerful drugs if belief activates it. In the next part, we will explore how doctors and researchers use the placebo effect in modern medical trials to test new treatments and understand human health better. The placebo effect is not only a fascinating part of human psychology and biology, it is also a powerful tool in science. Modern medicine depends on it to test whether new treatments really work. Without the placebo effect, doctors and researchers would find it very hard to know if a drug is truly effective or if people are just feeling better because of their beliefs. When scientists create a new medicine, they need to find out if it actually helps patients. To do this, they use something called a clinical trial. In these trials, people are divided into two groups. One group gets the real medicine, and the other group gets a placebo, a fake pill or treatment that looks the same but has no active ingredient. The patients do not know which group they are in. This way, researchers can compare the results fairly. If the group taking the real medicine gets better more than the placebo group, scientists can be confident that the medicine works. But if both groups improve in the same way, it means that medicine might not be better than belief itself. This process protects patients from useless or harmful drugs. For example, imagine a new pill is tested for headaches. Half the patients take the real pill and half take a sugar pill. Both groups may report less pain because belief can reduce pain. But if the real pill group reports much more relief than the placebo group, then the medicine has a true effect. Beyond belief, to make trials even more fair, scientists use something called double-blind testing. This means that not only do the patients not know which pill they are getting, but even the doctors giving the pills don't know. This prevents doctors from accidentally giving hints or influencing the patients. Only after the trial ends do researchers check which group received the real treatment. Placebos are used not only in testing pills, but also in other medical research. For example, in some studies, patients may receive a fake surgery where doctors make small cuts but do not perform the full procedure. This sounds strange, but it helps show whether the surgery itself is truly effective or if improvement comes from belief and expectation. Some studies have revealed that certain surgeries were no better than placebos, saving patients from unnecessary risks. The use of placebos in trials is very important because it keeps medicine honest. Without them, many treatments might seem to work, when in reality, they do not. History shows that before placebo-controlled trials, doctors often used treatments like bloodletting, strange potions, or ineffective tonics simply because patients felt better. With proper testing, science can separate real cures from illusions. However, placebo use in research also raises ethical questions. Some people argue that it is unfair to give patients fake treatments, especially if they are seriously ill. Researchers have to be very careful, making sure that no one is denied proper medical care. In many cases, patients who receive placebos are still given standard treatment, while the new drug is tested as an extra option. This way, no one is left untreated. Despite these challenges, placebos remain one of the strongest tools in medical science. They allow us to measure the real power of new drugs and make sure patients receive treatments that truly work. At the same time, they remind us that the human mind and belief can sometimes be just as powerful as medicine itself. In the next part, we will explore how the placebo effect is used in daily medical practice, not just in trials, and how doctors use it to improve patient care. While placebos are mostly famous for being used in clinical trials, they are also quietly present in everyday medical practice. Doctors have long known that a patient's belief in treatment can sometimes be just as important as the treatment itself. This is why the placebo effect is not only a scientific tool, but also a part of real-world healing. For example, when a doctor prescribes a vitamin pill or a mild medicine for a patient who does not need heavy drugs, the patient often feels better simply because they believe they are being cared for. The simple act of visiting a doctor, getting a prescription, and following a routine can create a sense of relief. This is not fake healing. It is the body's natural response to belief and reassurance. In fact, research shows that the way doctors and nurses communicate can strongly influence the placebo effect. A confident, caring, and positive doctor can make patients recover faster, even when the treatment itself is mild. If a doctor says, "This medicine should really help you," patients are more likely to improve than if the doctor sounds doubtful. Words, tone, and trust all play a big role in healing. Even the appearance of medicine can affect the placebo effect. Studies reveal that patients respond differently to pills depending on their color, size, or shape. Brightly colored pills may seem stronger, while larger pills may feel more powerful. Injections often feel more effective than tablets, even if they contain no active drug. The way medicine is presented creates expectations that shape the outcome. Doctors sometimes use this knowledge carefully. For minor illnesses like colds, fatigue, or stress, where the body usually heals on its own. Giving a harmless pill or mild treatment can speed up recovery by boosting the patient's confidence. This is sometimes called honest placebo use, when the patient knows it may not contain active medicine, but still benefits from the psychological boost. However, this practice also creates ethical debates. Should doctors give treatments they know are placebos? Some say it is dishonest, while others argue that if it helps patients without harm, it can be valuable. In recent years, some doctors have started using open-label placebos. In this case, they tell the patient openly, "This is a placebo with no active drug, but research shows it may still help." Surprisingly, many patients still improve because their belief in the healing process remains strong. Another everyday example is seen in alternative medicine. Treatments like homeopathy, crystal healing, or energy therapy often have little scientific evidence, yet many people feel better after using them, mostly because of the placebo effect. The ritual, belief, and personal attention they receive all play a big role in creating real improvements in how they feel. The placebo effect in daily practice shows us that healing is not only about drugs and surgeries, it is also about care, hope, belief, and the relationship between patient and healer. Modern doctors are beginning to understand that the mind and body are deeply connected, and using the placebo effect wisely can improve patient care without causing harm. In the next part, we will explore how culture and history have shaped the placebo effect and why different societies experience it in unique ways. The placebo effect does not happen in the same way for everyone. It is deeply shaped by culture, tradition, and beliefs. What people expect from medicine, healing, and the body is strongly connected to the society they live in. This is why the placebo effect looks different across countries and cultures. For example, in some Asian cultures, herbal teas, acupuncture, and traditional remedies are trusted and respected. When people use them, their belief in the tradition helps create a strong placebo effect, even if the scientific evidence is limited. Patients often report real relief because of centuries of cultural trust in these practices in Western countries. However, people often trust modern pills, capsules, and injections more than herbs or rituals. A colorful pill or a doctor's white coat can create stronger expectations of healing. This is why the same placebo pill might work better in one culture than another, depending on what people are used to believing. Religious and spiritual beliefs also play a role. In some societies, people believe healing comes from prayer, blessings, or sacred rituals when they participate in these acts. Their faith activates the same pathways in the brain that make placebos powerful. For instance, people who believe strongly in a healer's blessing often feel better afterward, even if no physical medicine was given. Research also shows that language and symbols matter. In cultures where red is linked with energy and strength, a red pill might feel more powerful, but in another culture where red means danger or illness, the same pill might not work as well. The symbols around healing shape how the body responds. Cultural influence can also be seen in how much people trust doctors. In societies where doctors are seen as authority figures, patients may feel more improvement simply because they believe strongly in the doctor's words. In other societies where there is more doubt about medical systems, the placebo effect may not be as strong. One interesting finding is that people from cultures with strong traditions of community and family support often respond better to placebos. This may be because they feel more comfort and encouragement from others, which boosts the mind-body connection. In contrast, people who feel isolated or distrustful may experience weaker placebo effects. These cultural differences remind us that the placebo effect is not only about biology, it is also about meaning, trust, and tradition. Healing is not the same everywhere. What works in one culture may not work in another, because belief systems are different. Understanding this helps modern doctors and researchers design better treatments. If they respect cultural beliefs and expectations, they can use the placebo effect more effectively. It also teaches us that medicine is not only about chemistry, but also about psychology, society, and culture. In the next part, we will look at how placebos are used in modern research and why they are essential for testing new treatments. The placebo effect is not only an interesting medical mystery, it is also a crucial tool in modern science. Almost every new medicine we have today, whether it is for pain, heart disease, or depression, was tested against a placebo before doctors started using it widely. This process is called a clinical trial. In these trials, researchers usually divide patients into two groups. One group gets the real medicine, and the other group gets a placebo pill that looks exactly the same but has no active ingredient. Neither the patients nor the doctors know who is getting what. This is called a double-blind study, and it helps prevent bias. Why is this so important? Because people often start to feel better simply because they think they are being treated. If researchers want to know if a drug truly works, they must compare it to the placebo effect. For example, if 40% of patients improve with a placebo and 70% improve with the real drug, then scientists know the medicine has an effect beyond just belief. Placebos have helped reveal surprising truths. In many studies, placebos reduce pain, improve mood, and even lower blood pressure for some people. This means that any new medicine must be strong enough to do better than the body's own belief system. Otherwise, the drug may not be considered effective. Modern research has also uncovered that the placebo effect is not only psychological. Brain scans show that when people take a placebo, their brains actually release endorphins and dopamine chemicals linked to pain relief and pleasure. This makes the placebo effect a real biological response, not just imagination. One famous example is research on antidepressants. Studies found that for many mild to moderate cases of depression, patients on placebos improved almost as much as those on actual drugs. This forced scientists to rethink how much of the benefit of antidepressants comes from the medicine itself, and how much comes from belief and expectation. In clinical research, placebos also help test side effects. Sometimes, people taking a sugar pill report headaches, nausea, or fatigue just because they expect side effects. This is called the nocebo effect. By comparing side effects in both groups, researchers can better understand which problems are caused by the drug and which come from expectation. There is also a debate in the scientific community. Are placebos ethical in research? Some argue it is unfair to give a patient a fake pill when they might need real treatment. To address this, researchers use placebos, mostly when no standard treatment exists, or when it is safe to do so without harming the patient. Despite these challenges, placebos remain one of the most powerful scientific tools. They allow medicine to move forward with accuracy and safety. Without them, it would be nearly impossible to know if a new treatment truly works. In the next part, we will explore the ethical questions of using placebos in real medical practice outside of research. The placebo effect is fascinating and powerful, but it also raises serious ethical questions. Doctors and scientists must constantly ask themselves, is it right to use placebos on patients? If a placebo can make someone feel better, is it acceptable to give them a sugar pill instead of real medicine? Or is that a form of lying? One of the biggest concerns is honesty. Patients trust doctors to give them the best possible treatment. If a doctor prescribes a placebo and does not tell the patient, this might be seen as breaking that trust. People deserve to know what is going into their bodies. Some argue that deceiving a patient, even for their own benefit, is wrong. Another problem is safety. Placebos only work for some conditions, especially those involving pain, mood, or stress. They do not work for infections, broken bones, or serious illnesses like cancer. If a doctor gave a patient only a placebo in those cases, it could delay real treatment and put the patient's life at risk. On the other hand, some doctors and researchers argue that placebos can be ethical if used carefully. For example, in cases where no strong treatment exists, giving a placebo might still provide comfort and hope. For conditions like chronic pain or anxiety, a placebo might reduce suffering without harmful side effects. Interestingly, new studies have shown that placebos can still work even when patients know they are taking a placebo. These are called open-label placebos. In some trials, doctors told patients, this pill has no active drug, but research shows that taking it might help you feel better. Surprisingly, many patients still reported improvements. This suggests that honesty and placebo effects might work together. Cultural and personal beliefs also play a role in ethics. In some cultures, people expect their doctors to use whatever method helps, even if it is not a traditional drug. In others, transparency and informed consent are the highest priorities. What feels ethical in one setting may feel unethical in another. There is also the question of fairness. Should all patients have access to placebo-based treatments if they work? Or should medicine only focus on drugs with proven chemical effects? Some argue that using placebos too often could reduce investment in real cures. The medical community has not reached a full agreement. Most agree that placebos should never replace real treatment for dangerous illnesses. However, many doctors believe they can be useful in certain safe situations, especially when combined with honesty. In the end, the ethics of placebo use depend on one's values: truth versus benefit, trust versus hope, science versus belief. These debates continue today as medicine learns more about the strange and powerful connection between mind and body. In the next part, we will look at the darker side of placebos, the nocebo effect, when belief makes people feel worse instead of better. When most people think of the placebo effect, they imagine something positive: patients feeling better simply because they believe they are being treated. But there is also a darker side to this phenomenon, known as the nocebo effect. The nocebo effect happens when negative expectations cause a person to feel worse, even if the treatment is harmless. Just as belief can make people heal, belief can also make people sick. For example, if a doctor warns a patient about possible side effects of a pill, the patient may start to feel those side effects if the pill is only a sugar tablet with no real drug inside. One of the most famous examples of the nocebo effect is from clinical trials. In almost every study, some people who take the placebo report negative effects like nausea, headaches, or dizziness. These symptoms are not caused by the pill, but by the person's belief that they might happen. Their mind convinces the body that something is wrong. The nocebo effect can even influence serious health conditions. For example, if someone believes strongly that a medical procedure will be painful or dangerous, their body may react with stress, higher blood pressure, or even actual pain. Fear and worry make the body tense and unwell. Doctors face a challenge with the nocebo effect. On one hand, they must warn patients about possible side effects of real medicine. On the other hand, too much warning can create fear, making patients suffer from effects that may never have happened otherwise. Striking the right balance is very difficult. The nocebo effect also raises deep questions about the power of the mind. If thoughts alone can create pain, illness, or discomfort, it shows how much control our expectations have over our health. It also explains why negative news, rumors about medicine, or frightening stories online can make people feel unwell, even when there is no real danger. Understanding the nocebo effect is important for building trust between doctors and patients. A doctor who communicates carefully and encourages hope can reduce nocebo effects. Patients, too, can protect themselves by being aware of this phenomenon and not letting fear take over. In many ways, the nocebo effect is a mirror of the placebo effect. One brings relief through belief, while the other brings suffering through fear. Both remind us that the mind and body are deeply connected. In the next part, we will explore how the placebo effect is used in clinical trials and why it is essential for testing new medicines. The placebo effect is not just a strange trick of the mind. It has become a powerful tool in modern science. One of the most important places where placebos are used is in clinical trials. The experiments that test whether new medicines actually work. When a new drug is developed, Scientists must prove that it helps patients more than just belief or chance. To do this, they often divide participants into two groups. One group gets the real drug, the other group gets a placebo, often a sugar pill or a harmless injection. Neither the patients nor the doctors know who received the real treatment and who received the placebo until the study is over. This is called a double-blind trial, and it helps prevent bias. If both groups improve equally, then the drug may not be truly effective. It might just be the placebo effect at work. But if the group with the real drug improves more, scientists know the medicine is genuinely helping. Clinical trials show just how powerful the placebo effect can be. In many studies, people who take placebos report less pain, better sleep, or even lower blood pressure. Their minds and bodies respond to the belief that they are receiving real treatment. This makes it harder for researchers to prove that a drug works. A new medicine must perform better than the placebo to be approved for use. Placebos also help scientists measure side effects. In almost every trial, some participants in the placebo group report headaches, nausea, or fatigue symptoms that are not caused by the pill but by expectation. This is the nocebo effect in action, and it reminds us how deeply thoughts shape our health because of the placebo effect. Many potential drugs have failed clinical trials. Even though they seemed promising in the lab, they could not beat the natural healing power of belief. In this way, the placebo becomes the gold standard in medical testing. Some critics argue that clinical trials can be unfair, since patients in the placebo group do not get real treatment. But without placebos, scientists would struggle to know if a medicine truly works. Placebos protect patients in the long run by ensuring that only effective drugs reach the public. The use of placebos in trials highlights an important truth. The mind can be as powerful as medicine itself, even in carefully controlled experiments. Belief can heal, reduce pain, and create real changes in the body. In the next part, we will look at how doctors and therapists sometimes use placebos in real practice, not just in research, and what ethical questions this creates. The placebo effect is often seen in clinical trials, but it does not end there. In real hospitals and clinics, placebos sometimes play a role in treatment, though this raises many questions about honesty and ethics. For centuries, doctors have given patients remedies that they knew would not directly cure the illness, but believed would bring comfort or hope. Sometimes these were harmless tonics, herbs, or even sugar pills. Patients often reported feeling better, not because the medicine was strong, but because their belief in the doctor's care triggered real healing responses. Even today, many doctors use forms of the placebo effect without always calling it that. For example, a doctor might give a vitamin pill to a patient who insists on needing medicine for a minor issue, knowing the vitamin will not cure the condition but may help the patient feel cared for. A therapist might offer a treatment that has little proven effect but is safe, simply to give the patient reassurance and confidence. Some doctors even prescribe very mild drugs when stronger ones are not needed, counting on the patient's expectation of improvement to boost results. This raises an ethical debate. Is it right for doctors to use placebos if patients do not know the truth? On one hand, deceiving patients goes against medical honesty. On the other hand, if the placebo genuinely helps and causes no harm. Some argue it is a form of healing. To address this problem, scientists have tested open-label placebos where patients are told directly, "This is a placebo. It contains no active medicine." Surprisingly, many people still report improvement, even when they know the pill is fake. This shows how powerful the ritual of taking medicine and the trust in doctors can be. In some cases, placebos may also reduce the use of harmful drugs. For example, if a patient believes a mild treatment is working, they may avoid unnecessary antibiotics or strong painkillers that have dangerous side effects. Still, most doctors are cautious. They do not want to damage trust by hiding the truth from patients. Instead, many rely on the placebo-like power of empathy, hope, and reassurance. When a doctor listens carefully, speaks kindly, and gives confidence, the patient often heals faster. This is sometimes called the therapeutic placebo effect, healing that comes not from the pill but from the relationship. The use of placebos in real practice shows that medicine is more than just chemicals. It is also about belief, trust, and human connection. While science continues to debate how placebos should be used ethically, one thing is clear: the mind and body work together in powerful ways. In the next part, we will explore how the nocebo effect, the dark side of expectation, can make people feel worse instead of better. So far, we have explored the positive side of belief in medicine, the placebo effect. But there is also a negative side, called the nocebo effect. Just as belief can heal, belief can also harm. The word nocebo comes from Latin, meaning "I shall harm." It describes situations where a patient feels worse because they expect to feel worse. This can happen even when the treatment itself is harmless. For example, a doctor may warn a patient about possible side effects of a drug, even if the patient is given a sugar pill with no active chemicals. Some may still develop those side effects, headaches, nausea, or dizziness, simply because they expect them. In medical trials, people in the placebo group often report negative effects that match the drug's side effects. Their minds create real symptoms out of fear or suggestion. Sometimes patients misinterpret normal body sensations as illness. If someone believes a pill might cause stomach pain, they may notice every small discomfort and assume it is proof of harm. The nocebo effect shows how powerful expectation and fear can be. When the mind is focused on danger, the body often responds with real stress reactions, faster heartbeat, muscle tension, or even immune changes. In this way, belief alone can create genuine suffering. Doctors face a challenge here. They must give patients honest information about risks, but at the same time, they do not want to cause harm by planting fearful expectations. Some doctors try to balance this by explaining side effects in a calm, reassuring way, so patients feel informed but not afraid. The nocebo effect also appears outside of medicine. In daily life, people may feel sick after hearing rumors about food, water, or the environment. For instance, if a group of people believes that a meal was contaminated, several may fall ill even if the food was perfectly safe. This is the power of shared belief. Interestingly, the nocebo effect reminds us that the mind-body connection is neutral. It does not only heal or harm, it simply reflects what we believe. Positive belief brings comfort, while negative belief brings suffering. Both are real, both are powerful, and both teach us about the deep link between our thoughts and our health. Understanding the nocebo effect can help doctors, patients, and society avoid unnecessary harm. By learning to manage fear and expectation, people can protect themselves from the hidden dangers of negative belief. In the next part, we will explore how placebos and nocebos are studied in modern brain science to uncover the mystery of how belief changes the body. The placebo and nocebo effects may sound mysterious, but modern science is beginning to explain them. Using tools like brain scans, scientists can now see how belief changes the brain's activity and chemistry. When a person believes a treatment will help, the brain often releases natural chemicals such as endorphins, the body's own painkillers, which reduce pain and create feelings of well-being. Dopamine, a reward chemical linked with hope, motivation, and pleasure. Serotonin, a chemical that improves mood and reduces anxiety. These natural chemicals can make the body feel better, even if no drug was taken. For example, in experiments where patients were given a fake painkiller, brain scans showed increased activity in areas that control pain relief exactly as if they had taken real medicine. The opposite also happens with the nocebo effect. If a person expects harm, the brain releases stress chemicals such as cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals increase anxiety, raise heart rate, and can even cause real pain. In brain scans, regions connected to fear and worry, like the amygdala, become more active. Researchers also discovered that the placebo effect is not just in the mind. It creates real, measurable changes in the body. For example, fake asthma treatments can make patients breathe more easily, and lung tests show genuine improvement. Patients with Parkinson's disease, when given a placebo, sometimes release more dopamine in the brain, leading to smoother movement. Even the immune system can respond to belief. In some studies, patients' immune responses improved after placebo treatments, showing that the body's defenses can be strengthened by expectation alone. One of the most interesting findings is that the placebo effect works through the same pathways as real medicine. This means that when a person believes a pill will reduce pain, the brain activates the same pain relief systems as an actual painkiller would. The difference is that the trigger is belief, not chemistry. The study of placebos and nocebos shows how deeply connected the mind and body are. Belief changes brain chemistry, and brain chemistry changes the body. This discovery is leading scientists to think differently about how treatments work. It also raises an exciting question. Can doctors use the power of belief as part of medical care, alongside real medicine, to help patients heal faster? In the next part, we will explore how doctors and patients can use positive expectations ethically and carefully without falling into dishonesty or false hope. The placebo effect is powerful, but it also raises important ethical questions. Doctors and scientists must decide how to use this tool in a way that respects honesty, trust, and patient rights. One of the biggest concerns is deception. For a long time, placebos were used secretly. Doctors sometimes gave patients sugar pills without telling them, hoping that belief would help. While this sometimes worked, it also broke trust. If a patient later discovered that their doctor had lied, the relationship could be damaged. Trust is the foundation of good medical care, so deception is a serious problem. Another ethical issue is informed consent. Patients have the right to know what treatment they are receiving. If a doctor hides the truth, the patient cannot make a free choice. This goes against modern medical ethics, which value respect for patient autonomy. But there are also strong arguments in favor of using placebos carefully. Research has shown that placebos can still work even when patients know they are placebos. These are called open-label placebos. For example, in some studies, patients were told, "This is a placebo pill with no active drug," but studies show that placebos can trigger the body's healing response. Surprisingly, many patients still reported feeling better. This shows that honesty and placebo power can go together. Another question is about fairness. If one patient receives a real medicine and another gets a placebo, is it fair? In clinical trials, this is carefully controlled, and patients agree in advance. But outside of research, it is harder. Doctors must balance the need to relieve suffering with the duty to be honest. Some experts suggest using placebos in combination with real treatments. For example, if a patient takes a smaller dose of a painkiller plus a placebo, they might still feel strong relief while avoiding side effects. This approach uses belief to reduce the need for heavy drugs. The nocebo effect also creates ethical challenges. If a doctor tells a patient all possible side effects of a drug, the patient may start experiencing those side effects events if the drug is safe. But if the doctor hides the risks, the patient cannot make an informed choice. Doctors must find a balance between warning patients and not creating unnecessary fear. In the end, most experts agree that placebos should never replace real, proven treatments when those are available. But they can play a supportive role. By understanding the power of expectation and communication, doctors can encourage healing in ways that are both ethical and effective. The study of placebos is not just about medicine, is also about trust, belief, and the human relationship between doctor and patient. These questions remind us that healing is not only about drugs and surgeries, but also about hope, confidence, and compassion. In the next part, we will explore how culture and tradition shape the placebo effect around the world. The placebo effect is not the same everywhere. It changes depending on culture, traditions, and beliefs. What works as a powerful placebo in one part of the world may not work in another, because people's expectations and values are different. For example, in Western countries, patients often trust modern medicine pills, injections, and hospital treatments. Because of this, a simple pill with no medicine inside can trigger strong effects as long as it looks like a real drug. A white tablet in a bottle from the pharmacy may carry great power because people believe in the science behind it. In contrast, in many Asian cultures, traditional healing practices play a strong role. Acupuncture in China, Ayurvedic medicine in India, and herbal remedies in Japan or Korea are deeply respected. When patients receive these treatments, even if the ingredients are mild or symbolic, the belief system makes them effective. Ritual, trust in tradition, and cultural stories add to the placebo effect. In African cultures, healing often involves community, music, dance, and spiritual rituals. A treatment is not just about the body, it is about spirit and connection. When a healer gives a symbolic remedy, the power comes from shared belief. The whole community may expect healing, and that collective faith can make the patient feel truly better. Even within one country, the placebo effect can vary. For example, studies show that in the United States, people often respond more strongly to injections than pills, because injections are seen as stronger. In European countries like Germany, colorful pills or treatments given with serious rituals may work better. This shows how expectation shapes results. Religion also plays a big role. In places where faith is central to life, a prayer, blessing, or holy water can act as a strong placebo. The healing power comes not from the object itself, but from the deep trust in divine support. For the believer, hope and belief trigger real changes in the body. Interestingly, even the color and size of pills have cultural meanings. In some countries, red pills are seen as strong stimulants, while blue pills are viewed as calming. A patient's background influences how they react to the same treatment. Global studies show that the placebo effect is not just a medical trick, it is a mirror of human culture. It shows how our beliefs shape our health. What heals us is not only medicine, but also the meaning we attach to it. The placebo effect reminds us that healing is universal, but it wears different clothes in different places. From ancient rituals to modern hospitals, the power of belief travels across cultures, changing shape but keeping the same core truth. The mind and body are deeply connected. In the next part, we will explore how modern technology, like apps and virtual reality, is creating new kinds of placebo effects. The world is changing fast, and with it, the way people experience the placebo effect is also changing. In the past, placebos were pills, injections, or rituals. But now, in the digital age, new forms of healing are appearing: apps, wearable devices, and even virtual reality experiences. Surprisingly, these modern tools can also create powerful placebo effects. For example, many health and wellness apps claim to track sleep, improve mood, or reduce stress. Some of these apps do have scientific backing, but others rely heavily on how much the user believes in them. If someone uses an app that shows calming visuals or sends reminders to breathe deeply, the person may feel better, even if the app itself has no advanced medical power. The belief that technology is helping activates the placebo effect. Wearable devices, like fitness trackers or smartwatches, can also trigger placebo responses. When a device tells a user that their heart rate is improving or their sleep is better, the person may feel healthier even if the data is not perfectly accurate. The simple act of trusting the device creates real physical and emotional changes. Virtual reality (VR) is another surprising space for placebo power. In some experiments, patients wear VR headsets and see themselves in peaceful environments, beaches, forests, or mountains. Their pain often decreases, stress levels drop, and mood improves. The VR experience does not contain medicine, but the immersive belief in being somewhere healing makes the body respond. Even online communities can act as placebos. People who join health forums, meditation groups, or fitness challenges often feel better just because they are part of something positive. Encouragement, shared belief, and group motivation can have real effects on the body and mind. One fascinating area is the rise of digital pills. These are not real medicines, but digital reminders that look like treatments. When a patient takes them as part of a controlled test, they often report feeling better. simply because they believe they are doing something for their health. Scientists are now asking, can technology design new kinds of placebos on purpose? Could apps, VR, or devices be used as safe, drug-free treatments for pain, anxiety, or depression? If so, the future of healing may combine medicine with carefully designed digital placebo experiences. Of course, there are concerns too. Companies may misuse the placebo effect by selling apps or gadgets that promise miracles without real science. This raises ethical questions. How much of placebo use is helpful, and how much is misleading? The challenge for the future is to balance hope and honesty. The placebo effect has always adapted to human culture. Today, technology is part of our daily lives, so it makes sense that our beliefs are now attached to digital tools. Whether through a glowing app screen, a smartwatch on the wrist, or a VR headset that transports us to a calm beach, the same truth remains. Belief can heal. In the next and final part, we will look at the future of the placebo effect, what it means for medicine, ethics, and humanity. The placebo effect has traveled with humanity through every age, from ancient rituals and healing herbs to sugar pills and digital apps. The power of belief has always been present. Now, as science and technology advance, the future of the placebo effect looks more fascinating than ever. One possibility is that doctors will begin to use open-label placebos more often. In the past, placebos were usually hidden. The patient did not know they were receiving one. But research shows that even when people are told this is a placebo pill with no active drug, they can still experience real healing effects. This could allow medicine to use the placebo effect openly, without deception. Another important area is personalized medicine. In the future, doctors may design treatments based not only on biology, but also on psychology. If a patient responds strongly to the placebo effect, their treatment plan may include rituals, words, or even digital tools that enhance belief and expectation. Healing would then be both medical and psychological, working together. The placebo effect may also help in reducing the overuse of drugs. Many modern illnesses, like chronic pain, anxiety, or mild depression, are often treated with heavy medications that can have side effects. If placebos can provide some of the same relief, patients might need less medication, leading to safer and healthier care in technology. The future may bring virtual healing clinics, where patients log in to VR environments designed to trigger placebo responses. Imagine a digital beach where pain fades away, or a mountain meditation temple where anxiety disappears. These experiences may not replace medicine, but they could become powerful companions to it. There are also exciting ideas about genetics and the placebo effect. Some scientists believe that certain people are naturally more sensitive to placebos because of their genes. In the future, genetic testing might reveal who can benefit the most from placebo-based care. But with these possibilities come big ethical questions. If a placebo can heal, how much should patients be told? Should companies profit from selling digital placebos? Should doctors encourage belief even when the treatment is not directly medical? These are debates that will shape the future of healthcare. What is clear is that the placebo effect shows us something deeply human. The mind and body are connected in ways we are only beginning to understand. Belief, hope, trust, and expectation are not just feelings. They are forces that can change biology, ease pain, and improve life. As we step into the future, medicine may no longer be only about chemicals and surgeries. It may also be about harnessing the hidden power of the mind. The placebo effect, once seen as a trick, may become one of the most respected tools in healing. The story of the placebo is, in truth, the story of us. It reminds us that healing is not only about what we take, but also about what we believe. And as long as humans continue to believe, the placebo effect will always have power guiding us into a future where hope and science walk hand in hand.